Welcome back to the deep dive. Today,
Just jumping right in.
oh yeah, we're diving right into the deep end this time with a quote that's,
Cook it to me.
all right, are you ready for this?
Hit me.
What you most want to be found will be found where you least want to look.
Okay.
It's a bit of a head scratcher.
So,
Sorry.
yeah, intriguing for sure,
hmm
but maybe a little daunting.
Yeah,
Like, where do you even start with that?
exactly. And to help us unpack it all, we're
Please.
tapping into a recent episode of the podcast, The Depths Within.
Ah, those two. Always a good listen. They always seem to get right to the heart of things, don't they?
They do, and in this episode, they really got into Carl Jung's idea of the shadow self.
The shadow self.
Yeah.
Have you ever,
Go on, I'm with you.
it's like all those parts of ourselves we'd rather keep hidden. Oh, we've all got them. Those
Yeah.
little chuckle, or not so little bits we try to keep tucked away,
Yeah,
like that junk drawer everyone pretends they don't have.
exactly.
But it's overflowing,
Yeah.
right? We all have one.
100%. But how does that tie into this quote about finding what we're looking for in the most unexpected places?
Well, imagine this.
Okay.
The treasure you're after
Mm-hmm.
is a deeper understanding of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A way to feel more complete, more whole.
I like that.
The path to that treasure often goes right through
Don't tell me it goes right through.
the shadow self, right through those messy, uncomfortable parts we usually avoid.
So we're not just talking about, like, facing our flaws, but realizing those flaws, those shadow parts, might actually hold something valuable.
Bingo. It's about integrating them, understanding why they're there, figuring out how they might be holding us back from really being who we are.
Okay, so instead of being afraid of our shadows, we can learn from them, even befriend them.
There you go. Turning that fear into something, well, less scary. Because, and here's the kicker, a lot of times the things we're resisting, the stuff we shove down into that metaphorical basement, they're often connected to our unique gifts and talents.
Okay, I can already hear our listeners thinking, that's great and all, but how do I actually do that? Like, how do we actually start integrating those shattered hearts?
Well, it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's going to look different for everyone, but step one, you got to be aware of your shadows.
Okay, so for anyone listening who's starting to think about their own personal shadow, where it might be hiding, what advice did they have on how to spot it?
They talked about noticing patterns, like those things that keep tripping you up over and over again.
You mean like always attracting the same kind of partner? Or never getting that promotion?
Those are good examples, especially if they leave you feeling frustrated or like something's missing. Often those patterns are clues to what's going on in our shadow selves,
So they're like red flags.
or even like little whispers from our subconscious
Yeah.
trying to get our attention,
Instead of just thinking, oh, why does this always happen to me?
right? We can choose to see them as opportunities to learn something about ourselves, to grow.
It's funny you should mention growth because I remember they used this metaphor talking about the hero's journey and how it often involves going into this dark, kind of scary cave.
Oh, yeah. What was it about that image that stood out to you?
I think it's that feeling of, ooh, I don't know if I want to go in there, you know, like when you're facing those shadow parts of yourself for the first time. But they made this point that it's in those dark, even scary places that we often find our greatest strengths. And that really resonated.
It's kind of like in our quote, right? Finding what we're looking for in the places we least want to look. Those hidden treasures.
Totally buried treasure.
Guarded by all sorts of stuff we'd rather not deal with.
Exactly. But facing those things head on is often how we get the treasure. Deeper self-understanding, greater sense of purpose.
Or maybe just realizing how strong you really are
Yeah.
for going through it.
It's like the universe wants us to go on an adventure, a scavenger hunt to discover our true selves.
And the more we're willing to play along, the more we discover parts of ourselves we never even knew were there.
So if we're up for the challenge, how do we navigate that? What did they say about exploring those challenging inner landscapes?
Well, they emphasized self-compassion. Big time. Because it's so easy to get down on yourself when you're looking at things you haven't liked about yourself.
Yeah, that critical voice can really pipe up.
Absolutely. So approaching it all with curiosity
Hmm.
and kindness. That's key.
So instead of beating ourselves up, we can look for the lesson in it.
Yes. And that's where vulnerability comes in. Because to really do this work, we have to be real with ourselves, admit that we're not perfect.
Which can be terrifying.
For sure. Letting go of control is a big one. And trusting that you'll make it through, even if it's messy for a bit.
It's like making peace with the parts of ourselves we've been avoiding host speaker.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you're part of me, and that's okay. And you know what's interesting? As we start to do that, as we embrace those shadow sides, we often start to see them reflected back to us, but in other people.
Hmm, what do you mean?
It's like suddenly we're more aware of those same qualities in the people around us, the qualities we've been trying so hard to ignore in ourselves.
Oh, like we're seeing the world through a different lens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just that we're seeing it, but we're understanding it better. Suddenly we have more empathy for others who are struggling with those same things.
Because we've been there in a way.
Right. And that shared experience, that recognition that we're all just figuring things out as we go, it can be really powerful. It can create a sense of connection that might not have been there before.
So it's not just about personal growth then, it's about how we relate to others too.
100%. Because when we're willing to be vulnerable, to show up with all our messy, imperfect parts, it gives other people permission to do the same.
And that's when real connection happens.
Absolutely. That's where the good stuff is. The
Yeah.
authenticity, the realness.
Yeah.
Because we're not hiding anymore.
We're not trying to be someone we're not.
Right. And that's freeing, both for ourselves and for the people around us.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. From facing those shadowy parts of ourselves to building deeper connections with the people around us.
It's all connected, isn't it?
It really is. So as we wrap up our deep dive today, what's one thing you hope our listeners take away from all of this?
You know, if I could say just one thing, it would be to embrace the shadows. Don't be afraid to look at them, to learn from them. They might just surprise you.
I love that. And it's something we can all keep in mind no matter where we are on our own journeys.
Exactly. It's an ongoing process.
It is. And on that note, a huge thank you to everyone for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it as insightful as we did.
And remember, the next time you feel that resistance, that urge to turn away from something uncomfortable, ask yourself, what if there's something valuable hidden there?
What if that discomfort is actually a signpost pointing you towards something amazing?
Exactly. Sometimes the things we least want to look at are the very things that can set us free. So keep exploring and keep diving deep.
Until next time.